Hello everybody, this is what Mr. David Ickes says regarding the Moon. Many functions related to human control are based within the Moon, but its main roles are to amplify the Orion-Saturn transmissions and to act as an energetic firewall by artificially suppressing the human frequency, to make it far harder to connect with infinite awareness beyond the simulation. I think there is technology within the Earth that is also part of this fake reality projection system and interacts with the Moon transmissions. You could symbolize the Moon as a broadcast dish directing matrix information at the human mind. The Moon is, like everything else, a holographic projection and thus malleable and changeable as its information codes are changed. There is every chance that it could even be a holographic curtain to hide something else from human view. The Moon is not a natural body, and from this emerges the strange amount of extraordinary anomalies that science cannot explain, right down to the most basic question of where it came from. Erwin Shapiro from the Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics said, "The best explanation for the Moon is observational error. The Moon doesn't exist." NASA scientist Robin Brett said much the same. It seems easier to explain the non-existence of the Moon than its existence. Science has tried and failed to explain the existence of the Moon. First they said Earth was hit by a Mars-type planet during its formation, and debris was projected into space that formed the Moon. When this story did not pan out, they came back with another version in which Mars, a Mars-type planet, struck the Earth and then came back and smacked it again. This was officially known as the whack and double whack theories, and these theories are all they are, and theories are all they are. The truth is that they don't even have a clue as to where the Moon came from, because it shouldn't be there. A planet like Earth should not have a satellite anything like the size of the Moon, 2,160 miles across, bigger than Pluto, and the fifth largest in the solar system, even with all the giant planets / stars, such as Saturn and Jupiter. Researchers Christopher Knight and Alan Butler said in their book, Who Built the Moon? The Moon is bigger than it should be, apparently older than it should be, and much lighter in mass than it should be. It occupies an unlikely orbit and is so extraordinary that all existing explanations for its presence are fraught with difficulties, and none of them could be considered remotely watertight. Evidence and informed opinion points to the Moon being hollow, and celebrated American cosmologist Carl Sagan said that a natural satellite cannot be a hollow object. Every time NASA has struck the Moon with powerful projectiles, the response from seismometers located on the surface has strongly suggested that the Moon is hollow. One impact equivalent to a ton of TNT caused the Moon to ring like a bell. Morris Ewing, a co-director of the seismic experiment, said, "It is as though someone had struck a bell, say in the belfry of a church, a single blow, and found that the reverberation from it continued for 30 minutes. Ewing could not explain why this would happen, and Dr. Frank Press from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, said that it was quite beyond the range of our experience. Such a relatively small impact should not have had such an effect." Another controlled strike, equivalent to 11 tons of TNT, caused the Moon to react like a gong, according to NASA scientists, with the vibrations lasting for 3 hours and 20 minutes to a depth of 25 miles. Ken Johnson, the supervisor of the Data and Photo Control Department during the Apollo missions, said the whole Moon wobbled in such a precise way that it was almost as though it had a gigantic hydraulic damper struts located inside of it. The Moon was also hit or struck by a meteor in 1972 with the power equivalent to 200 tons of TNT. Massive shockwaves were sent out into the interior, but none came back. NASA scientist Dr. Gordon MacDonald said in the 1960s that it would seem that the Moon is more like a hollow than a homogeneous sphere, and Dr. Sean C. Solomon of the MIT said evidence indicated the frightening possibility that the Moon might be hollow. Werner von Born, one of the central figures in the NASA Moon program, talked about the outstanding result of one impact. The moon rang like a bell for nearly 1 hour, indicating some strange and earthly underground structure. Dr. Don L. Anderson, Professor of Geophysics and Director of the Seismological Laboratory at the California Institute of Technology, said, "The moon is made inside out." The Soviet scientists suggested that the moon is a giant spacecraft and probably a planetoid that had been hollowed out with extremely advanced technology. They said rock inside the moon was melted to create cavities in the interior, and the metallic rocky slag then deposited on the surface to form the lunar landscape that we see today. We can again cross-reference modern science with ancient legends and accounts. Zulu shaman Credo Mutua told me that their legends say that there are compartments within the moon, and Zulu lore symbolises the moon as an egg because they say it has been hollowed out. Egg symbolism of the moon is common in the ancient world. Babylonians believed that their major goddess Semiramis Ishtar came from the moon in a giant moon egg, which landed in the Euphrates River. From this legend of Ishtar's egg have come Easter eggs of today. Zulu legends say the moon was built far, far away, and that the gods had rolled the moon across the sky to Earth hundreds of generations ago. Zulus are far from the only people to record the moon was not always there. All over the world there are legends and accounts that tell of a time before the moon. Aristotle and Plutarch in ancient Greece and Roman authors Apollonius, Rhodius and Ovid record an Arcadia tribe called the Proselines, who said their ancestors were there before the moon was in the heavens. Proselene means before Selene, the Greek goddess of the moon. Censorinus, another Roman writer from the 3rd century AD, told of a time long before when there had been no moon, while Dr. Hans Schindler Bellamy highlights a native tribe in Colombia called the Mosex in his work Moons, Myths and Men, who say they remember a time before the present moon became the companion of the Earth. And Sherbakov said that the high titanium content on the moon's surface, along with chromium and zirconium, fit the theme that the moon is a construct or part construct. These are refractory metals that are seriously resistant to heat and wear. The scientists said that the metals would result in an inviolable resistance to heat and the ability to stand up to means of aggression. They were precisely the metals you would use to deal with the effects of temperature, cosmic radiation and meteorite bombardment. From an engineering perspective, they said this spaceship of ages long past, which we call the moon, is superbly constructed. The scientists continued, if you are going to launch an artificial Sputnik, then it is advisable to make it hollow. At the same time, it would be naive to imagine that anyone capable of such a tremendous space project would be satisfied simply with some kind of giant empty trunk hurtled into a near-Earth trajectory. It is more likely that what we have here is a very ancient spaceship, the interior of which was filled with fuel for the engine's materials and appliances for repair work, navigation instruments, observation equipment and all manner of machinery. In other words, everything necessary to enable this carvel of the universe to serve as a kind of Noah's Ark of intelligence. Vassin and Sherbakov point out that the moon craters have a strangely consistent depth no matter the size of the impact, and this is what you would expect with a thinner outer layer covering, an impenetrable dark armouring underneath, protecting the interior where the action takes place. In recent years, Nexus magazine featured an article called the Charney Project, or Channeled Holographic Access Network Interface, which was claimed by a whistleblower to be a secret project based in Africa, which made contact through the computer interface with an entity in another reality in 1994. The whistleblower said that the contact continued for 5 years, during which a large volume of questions were posed and answered. I read the article without knowing what it was about and saw that the entity had talked about the true nature of the moon. The entity is reported to have said, "The moon is not a natural heavenly body. Life was better for humans before the moon came. Moon forces control time and manipulate the mood of humans. The moon is there to control the Earth's mood, and a big calm would come over the Earth without the moon. There would be only little storms, not big storms." The old race, archons in many forms, captured the moon from space and located it next to the Earth. Without the moon, people and animals would become calm and peaceful, and anxiety and fear would dramatically decline. The oceans would be much calmer, major thunderstorms and lightning would be rare, and the climate would be balanced, with no extreme heat or cold. Without the moon, telepathic and interdimensional communication would become widespread, and people would be able to see new colours in an enhanced colour spectrum. There would be major changes to the human respiratory system as blood and breathing chemistry changed. Those born after the moon's demise would be able to hold their breath underwater for hours at a time. This may sound crazy to many people on first hearing, but if you put David's work and all of his studies and context of what he's done over the last 30 years, and everything begins to make sense. Okay, so that's David Ickes' opinion on why the moon is here and its ancient history. I hope you really enjoyed this presentation. Of course, don't take any theory literally. Everyone's entitled to their own personal opinion. This is just some info on what David Icke has came up with, but you form your own opinion over these things. Thank you very much for tuning in today. This is Tim signing off. Goodbye.